let you down as soon as we do intros.
You are currently listening to Dirty Stinky Beautiful. We're back with our first deep dive episode. As a refresher, this podcast in various formats is all about the gross science of being human. It's Natalie Wheeler again. I'm not a scientist, but I am a journalist who reports a lot of science, and I like weird body stuff. That sounds strange. It is strange. As you'll be able to tell, this is a discussion rather than the narrative nonfiction podcast in our previous episode. I love those types of podcasts, but those take months. So in the interim, I'm giving you other material that I'm also working really hard on and is so fascinating. We talk parasites from cats today with some special feline guests. My foster kittens, Donnie, Darko, and Dr. Strange, along with a human guest, Katie O'Hearn, an LA-based writer, singer, and performer. She also has a solo cabaret called Pretty Fat that plays throughout LA, with her next performance on October 8th at the Upright Citizens Brigade. It's about being a woman with a body, and it is healing and hilarious. You can find out more about Katie's upcoming shows on her socials or website, which I will put in the show notes. Now, we did film this in one take, and while editing, I noticed there were some facts that either I wasn't very clear on or I even outright misspoke about. So I'm going to pop in occasionally with my corrections. Now to the raw meat of our discussion. We're back with Dirty Stinky Beautiful. Today we are talking about Toxoplasmosis, which is the brain-altering, behavior-altering parasite that comes from cats. And we have some very special guests. They are my foster kittens from Best Friends Los Angeles. And then our very special human guest is Katie O'Hearn.
I'm competing with two very cute kittens.
I know,
so,
you just can't compete.
yeah.
Just like I know
Just
we
like,
can't compete.
Yes.
Yeah. Katie and I actually live together. And so this is our life like on the daily. Katie was always a dog person. And then moving in, we used to foster dogs, but not as much anymore. And so it's mainly kittens, and it's been kind of cat and kitten overload for her. She's an animal lover in general. She tends towards the dogs, but she appreciates.
I also, I'm technically allergic to cats. You wouldn't be able to tell because I put these guys, right by my nose.
You know what's crazy is so am I.
Nat, can I release?
Yeah, the kittens are going to want to be released. So there's just me running around all episode. Actually, I feel like in many ways, Toxoplasmosis, I feel like it has an aura of cat to it. Tell me first what you know about Toxoplasmosis, what you think about it, if you ever think about it.
So I never think about it. But now that I'm becoming a cat lady, it is something that's a little bit more top of mind. The thing that I always heard about it was that if you were pregnant, you should not be cleaning a litter box because cat poop can kill your baby. That's always, growing up, that's what I would hear. Since living with you and being around cats more, I also know it kind of warps your brain to be like, I love cats. And that's why so many people are so obsessed with their cats. But that's all I know about it.
Yeah. There's a lot of news that came out, especially I feel like a few years ago, saying all these behavioral changes could happen from toxoplasmosis, and they're true to some extent, but it really depends on the animal. Yes, I also always heard the litter cleaning one. I will debunk one myth right now that owning a cat is not a risk factor for toxoplasmosis, and it does not. It shocks me. And actually, the biggest way you're going to get toxoplasmosis is from undercooked meat. That's the most common way people get it. But we'll get into it. So, Toxoplasma gondii is its official name. Toxoplasmosis is the disease I guess you have. Is a single-celled organism, but it's complex in its life cycle. So, it goes through a lot of different places to end up with a cat again. And this is where I feel like it's cat-like and that manipulates the world and then all to come back to the cat. Like, I know my cat, Nefertiti, wants to rule the world, wants to be a dictator. She does not believe in democracy.
0%.
No.
She's a queen. She's aptly named.
It feels cat-like to me, Toxoplasmosis. Anyway, so cats are the definitive host, which means the parasite cannot exist without cats. It is where they produce sexually, is in cats.
Just to clarify, what is it?
Toxoplasma gondii.
Toxoplasma gondii breeds in cats?
Yes.
Okay.
It all has to come back to cats in order to breed. But it is when cats poop, they poop out the oocytes and they sporulate, and that's where...
Yeah, they do.
Yep. That's where you can get infected. There's 2 methods that humans can get infected.
Technically 3, but that third way only happens when you're a fetus.
So then it goes in their poop, and then it goes everywhere. But it comes from the poop originally, but it goes into the air, it can go into the water, it can go in a lot of different places, and that's how it's getting to animals that never even interact with cats. Like, it's actually a big problem for sea otters in California. They have like deadly reactions to toxoplasmosis, and it's in the water. So,
and is that because the spores are traveling through the water,
or the water?
It doesn't even mean that like people are dumping their cat litter in the water.
No, it doesn't mean that at all. You could, some people, if you have the natural cat litter, they say you can flush it, and that's not good because our waste cleaning systems actually don't kill the toxoplasmosis. So it still goes everywhere. But it is the most common parasite for mammals. So it's like over 200 species have it. Most warm-blooded warm-blooded animals can get it. So that's what cats control the world. Yeah.
Well, in a small, teeny amount that we've talked about this before, you mentioned very offhandedly that humpback whales can get it.
Yes.
I'm like, I cannot wait to find out, because I'm like, how often is a humpback whale interacting with the cat? So that makes a lot.
They're not. Yeah, they're not. One of the most famous ways that it was spread like to hundreds of people was at a horse stable in Georgia, and they kicked up the dirt and it went into the roads and everything, and hundreds of people got infected. Yeehaw. It's very common that way to get infected. About a third of all humans have it. So it's a really common parasite, like one of the top 5. Let me look at my notes. Okay, so then after it sporulates and goes in the air, food, and water, the intermediate host can get it, and that can be us, or it can be all these other animals. The mice get it, obviously. The sea otters, kangaroos, there's so many. Reptiles can get it.
I was going to ask if reptiles can get it, so it's not just warm-blooded.
I actually checked on this because I wasn't 100% sure. Reptiles who live in extremely warm environments can get toxoplasmosis, but it's not that common for them.
When it goes to us, the way it passes through the placenta, it's called tachyzoites, and that's how the baby can get it. We can also get it, most commonly we get it, through the bradyzoites in the meat of animals that we eat.
Okay, so toxoplasmosis, it leaves the cats, it travels into water, into air, it infects other animals. We consume the animals, cows, like typical meats that we're eating.
Yeah, cows is not as common for some reason. We don't know why, but yeah, they can get it. But pigs, we get it a lot.
Okay.
Sheep, but yes, a lot of that. So we get it from the sporulated oocytes, from the poop essentially, or we get it from the bradyzoites, from the meat.
Or again, as a fetus, we get it from tachyzoites that pass through the placenta.
Vegetarians actually have pretty equal numbers, even though it mainly comes from undercooked meat, because we can get it from freaking vegetables and stuff.
Okay, good. So I'm like because another reason to become vegan, and it's like, nope, actually we're all gonna get it.
Countries with some of the highest percentages of toxoplasmosis has nothing to do with how many cats they have. It has to do with whether their culture eats a lot of raw food. So the liver pate in France makes it high, and there's other factors, but
liver pate, I drink it all day. That's
I know.
A joke from Funny Girl for my musical theater Dirty Stinky Beautiful crossover fans.
I know. That's not my forte.
There's a lot of us, Matt.
When you have your podcast, you can tell me about that because I know nothing. So that's how it goes. It affects each animal slightly differently, but it infects the muscles and it affects the brain. Think about the goals of the parasite are to keep growing.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah, divide and conquer. So the muscles are what the cat eats to get back into the cat's. The cat gets infected by raw meat. So the cat will eat the muscles and get it. The brain is where it gets interesting. So even though it affects, because it affects us and we're a dead-end host, the cat's not going to eat us unless, I mean, they could. I always tell Nefertiti if I die together with her, she should eat my body. I always say that.
I still stand by this statement.
And as your roommate, I'm like, please don't die together.
I know, but I always tell her, please just do that for me. I want her to survive and conquer the world. But so we're like a dead-end host, but so are many because this toxoplasmosis goes everywhere. It just doesn't know what the cat's going to eat.
So basically it's like, I'm spreading everywhere, and I'm so hopeful that I will get back into a cat.
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole goal is to get back into a cat and then get out again and keep it going. So it goes to the muscles for the cat to eat, and it goes to the brain, and this is where it gets crazy. We know in mice and other rodents, I believe, but for sure mice, it changes the brain to make them attracted to cats.
Get out of here.
So mice without toxoplasmosis will be scared of cat urine. With toxoplasmosis, they run to it. And it affects their dopamine levels where they actually get like more adventurous. They'll go cozy up to a cat. So it's this brilliant system where they're like,
Cats
come to me.
Are so evil.
They're the witches.
Evil geniuses.
I know. It's hard to differentiate the cat from the parasite because I'm like, oh, this is a cat.
Well, it's definitely beneficial to the cat because if a
no.
Whoa.
Oh yes, sorry.
It's beneficial,
right.
meaning like their prey, a mouse, is suddenly like, God, your pee smells so good, I want to hang around.
That you're totally right. In that relationship, yes. Cats can get like actually a little bit of they never die or anything, but some cats will get a little nauseous if they get infected.
Oh, I'm sorry you'll get a little nauseous, baby.
But otherwise, it's not that big of a deal for cats. They do also about a third of all cats will get it. The thing is, it depends on the lifestyle of the cat because
are they a smoker? Are they a drinker?
Yeah. Neffy? No, I doubt Neffy has toxoplasmosis. If you get it once, they shed it for about 3 weeks and then they are immune. I mean, in rare instances, you can get it again, but in general, you're immune. And same thing with humans. A cat will get it from undercooked meat, from raw meat. Oh, that's not true. Neffy's got out and killed a few birds, so maybe. She's not supposed to get out, and she does every once in a while. So she could have gotten it from that.
I think you have toxoplasmosis.
Well, I tried to get...
Because you're like, actually, my daughter, you're like, she actually is perfect, but she kills
We'll talk about that.
But...
You may... I don't know. So I actually looked into getting toxoplasmosis tests for this episode. They are fairly cheap. In a lot of countries, you can get them for like $5, but of course in the U.S., everything's overpriced. And when I looked into paying it for ourselves, it was like $60 each. And
this is why universal healthcare is
this is why I need this podcast to go somewhere so I can check if I have toxoplasmosis. So no, I didn't buy tests for us. But I am so curious if I have it. Again, cat ownership is not a risk factor. It is dangerous for other animals. Sea otters, deadly. Kangaroos, deadly. A lot of marsupials, it's deadly because it's spread to there, and Australia didn't naturally have felines. So a lot of these places that didn't naturally have felines, when we had the domestic cat just explode everywhere across the world, and many animals that weren't used to it, their bodies weren't used to it, it's been really deadly for them. So
that is so interesting that cats were not like natively.
No. Oh, this is where I actually have a little bit of a conundrum in my head that I hope we can get to, because domestic cats are one of the most invasive species on the planet. They're responsible for 14% of mammal, reptile, and amphibian extinctions.
Okay, I jumbled this whole stat. I meant 14% of all modern mammal, reptile, and bird species. Birds. Duh. I don't know why amphibian came out of my mouth.
And yet we're like, cats.
We've created a horrible problem.
I will say having an indoor cat, you're not part of the problem, but it's like a whole issue. There's not a lot of good solutions to it. It would require a lot of initiative from the government. We can't.
Initiative.
It's not the top right. I know.
I feel like we've got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah. But humans medically, we're getting to humans medically.
Great.
Okay. The main way that it affects humans is it creates these lesions. For 80 to 90% of people infected with toxoplasmosis, they have no symptoms whatsoever. For the 10, 20% who do have symptoms, the vast majority, Donnie came to visit. The vast majority, oh, you want to sit down?
He's like, don't give away our secrets.
I know. The vast majority of humans who even have an effect will have a very mild, like, cold. And the main symptom that kind of gives it away that it might be toxoplasmosis is swollen lymph nodes. There are two types of people that it's really dangerous for, and it's for severely autoimmune people, like people who have full-blown AIDS, not just HIV, full-blown AIDS, and people who may have some sort of organ transplant. And then pregnant people.
Specifically, the fetuses inside them, not the actual pregnant people.
It's called congenital toxoplasmosis. Think swelling.
When they get toxoplasmosis.
Yes. It's even rare for a fetus to get it because it's easier for the fetus to get infected later in the pregnancy. It's harder for it to pass through the placenta earlier. But later in the pregnancy, it's less of a big deal.
I mean, like many things. Like when you've like been pregnant for a couple months, you can start drinking again.
Oh, is that that's your experience?
That's what my mom said. No, can you imagine?
That's
like, I hope my mom's not watching this. That would be awful.
I know.
My mom did not drink when she was pregnant until she found out she was pregnant. Anyway.
I think that's cool.
What about cats?
Yeah, it's earlier in the pregnancy that's more dangerous, but it's really hard to pass the placental barrier. So even if you get it, it's actually still rare. But if you do get it and the fetus is infected, it is really sad. Often causes miscarriages straight out, but even if it doesn't cause miscarriages, they'll get enlarged liver and spleen, they'll get seizures, they'll get fluid in the brain, they'll go blind. The lesions often target the retina, get jaundice, and these problems can last them way past birth.
So I have a quick question. So it's not a myth that you shouldn't be cleaning cat litter when you're pregnant?
I'll explain.
Okay.
It depends.
Okay. And also,
it is sort of a myth.
Okay,
though.
And so this is also a question floating in my head, and you can answer it later. But if cats are getting this from raw or undercooked meat, is it more likely that pregnant people who catch congenital toxoplasmosis are not getting it from that?
Yeah. If you have cats and they're indoor cats, it is pretty much pointless to worry about litter cleaning. That said, it's so
finger licking
hard to be a pregnant woman. Let the other person clean the litter. Don't take that away. That's what I figured. Let them have that break.
We're not standing on the mountaintop being like, pregnant people,
Yeah.
clean your litter boxes. Like, let your partner do that if you're so lucky to have a partner.
It's still more likely that you're going to get it from, even if you have like an indoor-outdoor cat, it's still more likely you'll get it from another source. But you're definitely taking a risk having an indoor-outdoor cat. And they're a nuisance to the environment, unfortunately. So yeah.
I got both of them.
They go right up against my face. My Zyrtec can't reach that, so I'm crying in the morning, but it's with love. And itchy eyes. And itchy eyes.
100% of toxoplasmosis.
No! I don't know. Actually, I could have it or not. I'm doubtful that if I do have toxoplasmosis, I got it from the cat. The thing is, a lot of toxoplasmosis warnings that were accurate were just generally cleanliness warnings overall, because there's many other diseases you can get from undercooked meat. Also, I know it's trendy to feed cats raw meat. There's a way to do that and avoid toxoplasmosis. You need to freeze your meat, and that will also protect them. So if you want
to feed your cats raw meat, freeze the meat first, then de-thaw it, then feed them.
I do want to talk about outdoor cats because this is where my conflict comes in. I feel like Neffy is so gloriously in her element and happy when she's outside.
She is very
But she is a menace to society, truthfully, accurately. She is an invasive species. She could get toxoplasmosis. So that's my conflict with it. I keep her indoors.
So it's a moral conflict. You have
It's a moral conflict.
Because you see how happy your cat is when she's outside, but being outside is unsafe for her and for society at large. So a mother's conundrum.
So she has her catio and she complains about it.
Her catio, it's incredible.
No, it's not. It's literally a box. There's actual cool ones with like multiple rooms.
Okay, well, I think it's really cool, and everyone that ever comes to our house is like, what is that? And it's just this big box that Neffy stays in outside, and she loves it. She's always out there.
She does. It's always...
I'm sorry about your conundrum, though. I don't want to minimize it, because I want this animal to be happy, but also it's not safe for her.
Yeah, and so you can do all these enrichment things, and I do think they can live a generally happy life, especially if you have another cat indoors. You can leash train them. You can do all these things. I always had indoor-outdoor cats growing up. They are so at home. We have created this problem with cats where we've made them travel the world. Cats were never, I'm talking lions and panthers and all that, they were never a super large population in any environment, and we've made them that, and they're just...
Can you go back? So cats, not just like big cats, are too populated, or what are you saying?
No, they're not so most, they call them feline sylvestre, naturally occurring cat species.
Okay.
Are a low population in any environment. There's not a ton of them.
Right. So a Maine Coon cat in the wild, there's not going to be a large population.
Maine Coon is still, I would consider, a domestic cat, though. These guys we've taken everywhere across the world. And they're just a size of the population that would like never occur naturally. And they breed like maniacs. If one cat has a litter every 6 months or something like that, within like 5 years, there's like 200,000 cats. It's insane how quickly they grow. And most domestic cats are not cats with a home. They're feral or they're outdoor cats.
Okay, so I think that's where I just need a little clarification. So we have like wild cats when you think like tigers and lions and cougars. And then you have domestic cats. But domestic cats are not just cats that are living in your house. Domestic cats are like the ones, they're feral. They're the ones who like have those big cat colonies in Brooklyn.
Most of them. That's most of them, yeah. For example, in the U.S., more cats are born every day than lions in the wild.
Meaning all lions in the wild in existence.
So there's just a crazy amount of cats that affect other species. And toxoplasmosis is a huge way they affect other species. So the marsupials in Australia we talked about, kangaroo herds, if toxoplasmosis gets them, there's very few that survive. With sea otters, it affects their brain and they usually die, or it slows them down so much that they get eaten by sharks, or they
like lose their natural.
So it's really affecting the sea otters in California and a lot of different animals. Animals that never interact with cats.
Right.
So
that's what's most crazy is that the pipeline from cat to kangaroo in Australia.
Yeah. But I do want to go back to humans because I want to talk about some of these ideas we've been hearing in the news about cats affecting our brains, making childless cat ladies, as J.D. Vance likes to say. There's a few studies we've done, and it makes sense why we think this. It affects the brains of many animals. The strongest way that the studies that have come out are to do with schizophrenia, which says that if you have schizophrenia, you're 2.5 times more likely to have toxoplasmosis.
Switch that around. If you have toxoplasmosis, you're 2.5 times more likely to have schizophrenia.
And so we think there's some not great studies about dopamine maybe having an effect, and dopamine is increased with schizophrenia. That said, most people with schizophrenia don't have toxoplasmosis, and the vast majority of people with toxoplasmosis don't have schizophrenia.
So what came first, the chicken or the egg?
I am deducing that most likely it has to do with schizophrenia putting you in situations that are more dangerous and less hygienic. But there was a lot of just popular science articles coming out that just said that
causation versus correlation.
Toxoplasma, yeah. We have a correlation there, and it's a true correlation. We don't know enough. As far as it making you more attracted to cats, I'm sorry to say, I don't think that's true.
Yeah, of course you think that.
They've done so many different, there's a lot of like fun little studies they've done, and they all come a wash. There's one study they did if it made you more attracted to cat urine, and they separated men and women, and they found that men
are obsessed with it.
Men were more attracted to cat urine who have toxoplasmosis, but women weren't. Women were actually not attracted. But again, these are all small studies. I feel like if you study them again, you couldn't replicate. Most studies you can't replicate again. That's why you need so many studies and so much research to say this is true. In general, it doesn't seem to affect us that way. It does affect our brain in that we get lesions in our brain. It can affect our eyes a lot. For people who are immunocompromised, this is where toxoplasmosis can be dangerous in that it can actually, it goes everywhere. So it could go to your brain, it could go to your kidneys, it could go to all, and then it manifests in some sort of infection that way, wherever in your body it hit. And cysts from a previous infection, if you are that immunocompromised, I'm talking really immunocompromised, can reactivate and cause issues. So that's where it's dangerous. But here's the way where it's actually helpful to already be infected. If you get pregnant, you don't have that risk.
Because you've already had it. It's
you've already had it. It's not going to go through. Again, rare instances where you're reinfected. Rarely. And I don't think I've lived a riskier life to getting it. Even with all my cats. Because of the situations my cats were in.
Yeah.
And in general, if I were pregnant and scooped Neffy's litter, I don't think I'm more at risk. There's a few solutions we have, and none of them are great to this toxoplasmosis problem. And I think the problem is mainly with other species, there is
the greatest impact. Consequence.
It's environmentally. So there is a vaccine that was developed, very effective, a little bit expensive, and it was for cats. And nobody would get it because they're like, I'm not worried about my cat. If my cat gets it, I don't care.
My cat will be fine.
Yeah. So they pulled it, but we did have a vaccine.
Like the HPV vaccine.
Sort of. I got that.
I got the HPV vaccine too, but men can get it, even though men
are
typically
totally. Yeah. Exactly. So if we controlled the cat population in general, that would make a huge difference. I'm talking wild domestic cats, which is sounds like a
right, spay and neuter your pets. Like
there's a concept called Trap-neuter release, TNR, which is an idea for feral cats to just reduce the spread of cats being so fertile.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yeah. There is also Trap-neuter release, TNR. There's also culling, which literally is just killing off feral cat population. Both we're going to look at.
Yeah.
But they're both, to be honest, unrealistic given how prolific cats are. If you cull or kill the feral cat population, you have to kill off 30 to 50% every 6 months for 10 years in order for it to actually get it under control.
Wow.
Right now, we're doing what we call low-level culling, which is actually increasing the population. We're doing like 3 to 5%. In the U.S., in L.A. particularly, we've increased a lot of our kill rate. It creates a vacuum effect where they have more resources. They actually have more babies. It just actually makes more.
Okay.
So we're making it worse.
So the reason why it's worse is because you're killing enough so that other cats are getting enough resources, enough food to like keep on.
They're like, let's live life more. That's like, let's have
life
more
to the fullest.
Yes. So it actually, in the end, makes more feral cats. TNR can also have a vacuum effect, and you also have to do that at such a crazy rate. So the lowest rate to seem effective was around 72%, but it can go up to 94%. Is the range they think you need to get TNR'd in order to actually have a significant decrease. And then you have to keep that up every year.
Do you have
for a few years.
Guesstimate of how many cats are in the U.S. or feral cats? Is there?
I know globally. Cats worldwide, they think is around 1 billion.
Okay.
But again, that is a big range. I don't know about the U.S. They kill up 1.3 to 4 billion birds.
Cats kill or we kill?
Cats. Cats, they
gotta eat, I guess.
And they kill off like bird species. It truly is a problem that's big. And I didn't realize, I always heard that they're invasive species, but I don't think I understood how much they were, which is another part of my conundrum with my adoration for them. So both of those options are unrealistic. Also, our TNR rates, I think, are even worse than our culling rate. They're unrealistic for our resources right now. It kind of becomes an environmental problem that we have to learn to live with and negotiate and maybe find creative solutions with some of these other animals. Yeah. But I don't have a solution. In my own little world, I can try not to perpetuate the problem.
Totally. My takeaway in this moment is that even though it has such a name recognition for being a pregnant woman's disease that you get from cats, it's really something that's greatly impacting other animals and other mammals. That's the bigger impact that it's having.
Yes. In humans, I don't consider it a terrible, terrible disease. It can be for the rare human, and I think you can take steps to be cautious. For pregnant women, I don't think we have good advice. I don't think
period.
The advice I don't think should be like, don't clean your indoor cat's litter, or don't have, some doctors say don't be around cats at all. I think that's dumb. I think the advice should be test early for toxoplasmosis if you're pregnant, because we actually have medications, and they're different for if you're later in your pregnancy versus earlier, that greatly reduce whether that baby will be born with any problems or be miscarried or anything. So test early. Don't eat undercooked meat. Don't, and then obviously be sanitary.
Wash your hands.
Essentially. Wash your hands. Don't be breathing in cat poop. But again, cat poop can get anywhere. It can get in the water. It can get in different places. So don't be drinking seawater. There's many things you can do that are sanitary for other reasons other than toxoplasmosis.
Right, and it just so happens that living a sanitary life will also impact
and do testing for toxoplasmosis. It's a very easy test. It's a cheap test. And if they catch it in a pregnancy, like, get on the treatment right away.
What will happen if I get toxoplasmosis? Like, what's the common symptoms? Like, what am I?
You probably won't even ever know.
Okay, say I will know. Say I do know.
Say you're in the, like, 10%.
And the 10% that, yeah. I'll have like mono-like
still won't
symptoms.
know. No, you might have got. You remember you had a cold last week or this week?
Yeah.
Maybe it was toxic. Are your lymph nodes swollen?
Yeah.
So if you've gotten an illness with swollen lymph nodes, maybe you got, but you probably will never know you had it.
Unless I go to my doctor.
Unless you get a test.
I've been around a lot of cat poop, raw.
But even then, being around a lot of cats, it's like not necessarily how you're going to contract it most often.
Totally. So if you have, it would be like common cold symptoms, and you wouldn't be like, wow, I think I'm down with a case of toxoplasmosis.
Yeah.
It would most likely be something you would find out after.
Yeah, it would only be through testing, I think. Oh, maybe a differential diagnosis, like I'm thinking I have swollen lymph nodes. Maybe I have it, but it could be
swollen lymph nodes, and I love the Aristocats.
Yeah, it could be another thing. I don't know whether I want it or I don't want it, but I don't think it's making me obsessed with cats. I think that's just innate, and I'm just nuts.
It's just who I am.
That's just who I am. It's just gonna happen.
So it's not something that we should be like worried about, but wash your hands.
Yeah, don't be worried about it. But I also think there is a risk with many diseases, a risk in everything. And there's a risk tolerance that I think there is a wide range you're allowed to have and still be like not stupid. So some people might want to take that risk on, and some people don't.
Right, like if I'm going to go to Paris, I want a little beef tartare.
I don't, but
like caviar, beef tartare.
As much as I love dirty, stinky, beautiful things, that just no.
It's not bad.
I know. Like vegetarians still get it, and it's because we can get it from all these other sources.
Well, those people in Georgia are getting it from literal dust.
Yeah.
So
it can go anywhere.
Yeah.
But that's toxoplasmosis for you. What do you think?
I'm less scared of it now. I still would prefer to not change a litter box.
Well, for other reasons.
It's still gross.
I think we all would prefer to not change a litter box.
I love these little kittens, but the reason I'll never be a full-time owner is because you have a litter box.
I know.
But it gives me comfort, even though it's so much more common or easy to catch, like feel less frightened on the day-to-day that if I were to contract it, it's not going to make me bedridden.
Yeah. And I think it helped me really understand the problem of domestic cats and what humans as a species have done in general in many different ways. But this is one way where we have created kind of an unnatural situation.
So I was a little bit saddened by it. I love cats, but we have too many of them. As we said all that, which was like a mix of feelings I felt like about it, just to know these are adoptable. They would love to go together if you would love to fill your home in ways that are not going to ruin the world.
They're adoptable. Reach out to Dirty Stinky Beautiful.
Yes, join the Patreon too. Go see Katie's show. So yes, if you want more things Dirty Stinky Beautiful, please go to our Patreon and subscribe.
Thanks again for following along.